Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Elite Media. Have you ever wondered about the complex relationship between a nation's laws and its crucial or cultural identity, and of course, the global political landscape? That is what's at the heart of a major conversation happening right now in the West African nation of Burkina Faso. While Western media is framing a recent legislative move as a step backward, a deeper look reveals a more complex story rooted in pan-Africanist ideals and, of course, a global shift towards cultural sovereignty. So, today we are going beyond the headlines to explore the new law and while it is a significant act of sovereignty for a nation reclaiming its own narrative, and we will connect it to a similar conversation which is happening in the United States of America.
This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
So imagine a nation under a transitional government taking a bold stand to define its own moral and legal code free from external influence. That is what just happened in Burkina Faso. A new law was unanimously passed by 71 unelected members of the country's transitional government, a regime that came to power after two military coups in 2022. This action isn't just simply a legislative maneuver, it is a statement. It is a rejection of what many African nations see as imposed Western values and a return to what they consider traditional, community-focused principles. This is actually a central tenet of Pan-Africanism, which is emphasizing the need for African people to unite and define their own destiny free from colonial-era norms and also neo-colonial pressure. The swift and decisive move by a government that is not accountable to Western democratic models can be seen as an expression of this sovereignty. The law's ban on homosexuality, with a punishment of 2 to 5 years in prison, is being framed by Western outlets as a severe violation. However, within the African continent or the context, this is often reviewed differently. The Justice Minister Edaso Rodrigue Bayala referred to this act as bizarre behavior, a phrase that resonates with many who believe these practices are alien to their culture and also their traditions. So the immediate deportation of foreign nationals found guilty reinforces the idea that these are values that the nations is not willing to import. Now let's connect this to a conversation that is often framed in a very different terms. The global political landscape is shifting, and we are seeing similar debates about cultural identity and national sovereignty playing out in the West. Now, the current US political climate, for example, features strong voices from a segment of the population that is also pushing back against what they see as a radical social agenda. Of course, the Trump administration, for example, has consistently taken a conservative stance on issues of homosexuality and transgender rights, with policies that have sought to limit or reverse protections of the LGBTQ plus community.
This week, I will also end the government policy of trying to socially engineer race and gender into every aspect of public and private life. We will forge a society that is colorblind and merit-based. As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
Now, this isn't just to say that the political context is identical, but it is to highlight a shared threat: the assertion of a nation's right to define its own social norms and the legal frameworks, even if it means clashing with a global liberal consensus. So, from a Pan-African perspective, the criticism from Western nations is actually hypercritical. They see these nations and their allies grappling with similar internal debates about traditional value and also their social change. But the passage of the law in Burkina Faso is a bold assertion that African nations will not be pressured into adopting laws and social norms that they believe are incompatible with their heritage and also community fabric, especially when similar debates are taking place in the very nations that are doing the lecturing. The law in Burkina Faso is, as some in the West have called it, a step back for human rights. However, from a Pan-African perspective, it is a brave and necessary step forward for cultural self-determination. So this is actually a coordinated movement with Burkina Faso's neighbor and ally, Mali, adopting similar laws. This is not a coincidence. It reflects a broader regional alignment on social values and also legal systems. We've also seen similar developments in Uganda and also Ghana, where laws have been toughened. This is viewed by many as a collective effort to actually decolonize legal codes that were often influenced by European powers and to replace them with a system that is based on indigenous values and also beliefs. So, what are your thoughts on this complex issue of sovereignty versus human rights and the parallels we can actually see across the globe? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe for more videos.